Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of FX Reboot. I'm Erik Beck, a DIY filmmaker and special effects artist, and today we're taking a closer look at an interesting film called Paranormal Activity by director Warren Pelly. Pelly shot this film, his first, for around $15,000. That's like 1,000 times cheaper than what some other indie films spend. Now, he's not the first filmmaker to boast turning what in Hollywood is considered a tiny budget into a huge success. El Mariachi was shot for just $7,000. Blair Witch for $10,000. But something about Paranormal Activity intrigued me. The stories of Steven Spielberg getting freaked out while watching it at home, the campaign where you could petition that it play in your town, and of course, the special effects that got audiences jumping. Paranormal Activity takes place in your average San Diego home with a normal, happy American couple. Katie's going to school and Mika's a day trader. They have a nice house and they are totally in love. Everything is great. Except Katie apparently has a malignant and persistent demon that has been following her around since she was a little girl. Everything else is awesome. The demon, not so great. So Mika buys a video camera to capture and document the strange things happening in the house. The entire film is shot from the vantage point of this one camera, which is part of the film's psychological success and its simplicity. In fact, the film was shot in just 7 days and was largely improvised using a method some people call retroscripting. This usually refers to the technique of only using a rough plot outline as a script instead of a line-by-line screenplay. This leaves dialogue deliberately vague for interpretation and improvisation by the cast. Not only did the two main actors improvise a majority of their lines, they also shot most of the film. Way to work around the unions, guys. They filmed themselves in the morning, they filmed themselves during the day. They even filmed themselves having sessions with a psychic. But the really scary stuff always seems to happen after they go to bed, when Mika sets the camera up on a tripod in the corner of the bedroom. It's with this angle that we can really see firsthand what this young couple is experiencing. And it's this angle where all the best special effects happen. The whole concept for Paranormal Activity was based on a pretty tight budget, but the film still delivers some big scares. One of the reasons this film is so scary is the clever ways Pelly used special effects. Let's take a closer look at some of the special effects that I thought were the scariest. A word of warning though, possible spoilers are ahead. I don't think it'll make the film any less frightening, but if you want to go into this film completely unspoiled, for the next few minutes, you should do something like this. In my book, there are 3 creepy special effects that really stand out. First, when the demon casts a shadow across the couple's bedroom door, it's so subtle you almost miss it the first time. But when you do see it, it's extra creepy because you almost feel like you found something you weren't supposed to. In my opinion, the second scariest effect is when the invisible demon seems to lift up the bed sheets as Katie and Mika sleep. That was scary, but the freakiest part of the film, except for maybe the ending, is when Katie is literally dragged out of bed and down the hall by an invisible force. This was so freaky, I peed a little. We are all the most vulnerable while we sleep. That's why people have alarm systems, or in my case, why I sleep with boxing gloves on. It's that vulnerability and the subtle realism of the effects that Pelly so brilliantly uses to scare the crap out of us. Normally this is the part of the show where I break down how the pros pulled off their effects, but in Paranormal Activity's case, there's not a lot of information out there. It's been kept a secret on purpose. No one knows for sure how they created their ghostly effects. But that doesn't mean I can't try and figure out how to recreate some of their effects for next to nothing, which is probably how they did it in the first place, so this should get interesting. Okay. Okay, so we're setting up to recreate the Paranormal Activity effect. The first thing we did was a little prep work to make this bedroom look more like the one in Paranormal Activity. Then, we set up the camera to try and replicate the angle and shot as best we could. We had 3 effects to recreate: the disembodied shadow, the mysterious billowing sheets, and finally, the coup de grace, a girl being dragged out of bed by an invisible force. For the ghostly, billowing bed sheets, we went pretty lo-fi and decided to just use a hairdryer and a simple fan. With some practice, we were able to come pretty close to making the sheets move just like they did in the film. Our first hurdle came when Rachel's ankle started to turn a little blue. We had to come up with a different way to attach the rope to pull her out of the bed. So this is tied through a series of basically distributed the weight. So when it pulls, see how it gets stretched out there. Does that hurt?
Nope.
That hurt?
Keep going until it does hurt.
It's a fun game.
So basically, her leg mounting brace is connected to 2 ropes. We've got this one going over through this doorway, pulling her off the bed. And then when she gets here, he lets go, and Jake engages the other rope that's down to the kitchen. Look at those nails on the thing! And then we have a ghost shut the door. Obviously, a roll of tape, some rope, and a cheap fan isn't everything that goes into conjuring a convincing demon out of thin air. We still needed some computer magic. The basic idea is to take 2 or more separate video clips and combine them in a way that hides the stuff we don't want the audience to see. This is called compositing. For the spooky shadow effect, we needed 1 clip of someone walking past a door and another clip where our couple is sleeping peacefully. By combining these 2 clips with an invisible line along the door jamb, the 2 images become one, and presto, spooky demon shadow. The moving sheets effect uses the same technique, but this time we composited some footage of a blank floor over the original clip to hide us holding the fans. The final effect was a lot more complicated, and we ended up using lots of little moving cutouts called mats to hide the ropes that pulled Rachel out of the bed. The last step was simply changing the color of our footage to make it look more like night vision. Well, we shot our paranormal effects and tried our best to replicate the actual movie. When you look at them side by side, you can see that we were able to come pretty close. But the beauty of Paranormal Activity is not how sophisticated their special effects are. It's the story and world they create around those effects. When you look at us goofing around in a makeshift bedroom and creating ghost effects with a hairdryer, it can seem pretty simple. But put those same effects in the context of a good story and convincing performances, and everything becomes very real and very scary. To check out more do-it-yourself special effects, look for future episodes of FX Reboot. Or, if you're feeling brave enough to watch Paranormal Activity, maybe even alone in the dark, remember that you can watch it right here on Epix. I'll see you next time.